Hi, this is Glenda, and I'm getting ready for the next soap challenge. I am preparing my ingredients, which are the food item and the drink. For a drink, I will be using peppermint bark green tea. So those are the ingredients, and I brew it for about 3 minutes. And after the 3 minutes were up, I just put it on an ice tray to freeze it, and whatever was left, I tasted. It was quite mild, actually. Then it was time to prepare the blueberries. I started by blending them with the stick blender, and later I strained them, and then I had a taste. They were quite tasty. Yummy. So before making the soup, I needed to prepare the embeds, and the part that was most time consuming was the teacups. I made them with some leftover soap that I had kept wrapped so it stays soft. This part is colored with kaolin clay, so it's sort of like an off-white color, and the part that simulates the tea had orange 10x essential oil, which colored it yellow, but it also gave it a weird texture, so I don't recommend that for if you wanted to make something as soap dough. Most of the teacups were hand sculpted, but it was taking quite a long time, so in the end I decided to do the rest just by carving them. I left the soap dough pieces dry out like overnight, and once they were hotter, I cut them with an X-Acto knife into the shape of a teacup. This made it more difficult to attach the handle though, so there were plus and cons to each process. I painted what I wanted to call flowers with rose clay. This was also a little bit difficult. I learned that what works best is to have the pencil loaded with the powder clay first, and then just wet it slightly with alcohol. And I did the blueberries with soap dough that had been colored with indigo powder, and those were quite easy. It was just a matter of making a small bowl, and most of them came out looking more like an oval, so I had to squeeze them with my fingers. And then I had this tool also from the metal embossing days that I had, and it has a star shape in the end, so I used that to give them that look that blueberries have on top. The leaves were probably the easiest, since I only hurled a small oval piece into a mold of a small leaf and then just pull them out. So here I have the frozen peppermint tint, and I'm going to add slowly the lye to it so that it melts it. I honestly don't think that it has a whole lot of sugar based on the ingredients that I read, but I decided to go ahead and freeze it anyway because the blueberries, which are here, are they have a lot of sugar, so it'll be good to keep the whole solution in the cold side. When I got the blueberries out of the freezer, not all of them, but some of them look like the top of the surface was liquidy, and I remember that some sugars, actually I think sugar doesn't freeze. Once I made a tamarind sauce from an Indian recipe, and it has a high concentration of sugar to counteract the acidity of the tamarind, and I kept it in the freezer for months. And every time I needed to use it, it was still liquidy. It was still in liquid state. It never became solid. So I let the water cool down, and it may not cool down too much. I left it inside the ice water bath, and now it is at 52. I've never soaked with lye solution this cold. The oils though are at 88. We'll see what happens. This should be interesting. And while I mix this, I'm going to show you the colorants that I'm using, and they're all natural, and the essential oils blend that I will be using as well. Now, as far as the colorants, I mixed ahead of time because I was reading on a book that I needed to hydrate the indigo powder prior. So I mixed it with water the day before, yesterday. And I'm doing two colors. The one that is just indigo looks fine. It smells a bit weird. But in here I mix indigo with French green clay. And you see how it's become all foamy like that on top? And it also smells a bit weird. I'm not sure what that is for or why. Alright, I'm going to give it a quick, short blend. I was reading that the blueberries can give the soap a very gray color, and I thought that would be, it shouldn't affect the design too much because gray is a neutral color. At least that's what I hope for. It is coating the stick blender well, so I may go ahead at this point. I think it is emulsified, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and add the blueberries, the blueberry puree. Maybe I should add the fragrance before I add the fruit. Yeah, I'll do that. It smells very lemony. The Litsea and the orange 10x, definitely you can smell those. I'm not really sure how the peppermint is gonna do because prior to this I've only used peppermint twofold, and this one it was just regular peppermint, so I don't know what it's going to, if it's going to survive. Okay, it's warming up. It is not at 87. This was in the freezer, but it's been out for a while, so it's back to liquid. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and split this into 3. Alright, and then I need a small portion, which I'm gonna put here. Here I have the kaolin clay. It's gonna be for the small portion. This is going to be the indigo powder with the French green clay mix, which is gonna go on top. And to this one I'm just going to add the indigo powder, which some of it just became a paste at the bottom. Okay, it's getting quite thick. It's probably because of both the blueberries and the light to water concentration that I have. And I also had reduced the water to make up for half of the blueberry puree. So this is looking right now a very green, like olive green. And I knew it would be moving quick, so I try not to make a complicated design. I'm going to mix the kaolin clay with the stick blender though, but I don't want it to break the bottom one. It is thick, but it's not that thick, and perhaps I needed a little bit more of this one because it doesn't seem like I'm gonna have enough to do a full even layer. Okay, and now I'll do the last layer, which is getting thick as well. You can tell that at the bottom it's not blended, so I'm going to use the stick blender to incorporate the colorant. Okay, now this one at the moment looks like a hunter's green, which is pretty, but I know it's not gonna stay like that because indigo tends to look green when it's in a high alkaline environment, and then it goes to like a bluish, navy blue later. This is quite thick and this looks jiggly, so I'm going to try to add it carefully on top. And it looks like I will need that extra soap butter, so I'm gonna end up doing more layers than I wanted to. Alright, so now I'm gonna come with the icing spatula and try to even it out on top. You can tell that the colorant was not well blended down there. Maybe it'll give it a cool effect. I almost forgot to do the swirling that I wanted to do. It's pretty much just one move down and then to the bottom and then bring it up on the side. I wanted it to look like almost like a V shape if possible, but it was definitely too thick by the time I remember to do it, so we'll see what it looks like later. Alright, so I'm going to now add the embeds, which you may have seen before. It's the teacups, and then around them I'm going to do the blueberries, which in Texas we actually grow blueberries, and by we I mean as a general population. I don't. Once we went to a blueberry farm, which is a place where you may have different kind of pick your own kind of places, perhaps where you live. If you do, let me know. I'll be curious to know. So here it was that blueberry farm where you go, they give you a bucket, and then you pick pretty much the blueberries from the trees, and the trees are about 5 to maybe 7 or 8 feet tall at the most. Perhaps they're considered shrubs, I'm not sure. And you fill your bucket as much as you want, and then when you go out, they weigh your bucket, and then you pay for the blueberries on a price that is based by the pound. I remember it being a lot of fun, and we said, oh, we should do this again, and we never did. It's been perhaps 10 years since we went there, and we haven't been back. But we have every intention of going most years, and then we find out that we missed the season because you can only go pick it from specific time frames. So the leaves, I want them to represent the peppermint leaves from the tea. But anyway, I'll finish putting the embeds on, and then I'll bring you back when I unmold it and cut it. So it's been 48 hours since I made the soap, and it's looking a lot more green than I expected it to. However, not too bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it and see what it looks like inside. Oh, look at that. That's pretty. I wasn't expecting that. That's a bright green and a dark green, and I guess the last minute swirl that I attempted to do, I just wanted to do one in the center. Doesn't look bad. I'm gonna wait a few days to see if this is gonna change colors, and I'll take pictures of whatever it looks like in a few days.